Hi, I'm Tom Hendrickson from the Agile Online Summit. We have a special guest with us today. Ron Quartel is an independent consultant at Cron Technologies and the creator of Fast Agile. Ron, introduce yourself to the people here at the Agile Online Summit.
Hey, Tom. Yes, Ron Quartel, independent consultant, I guess Agile consultant and technical consultant, and a software developer at heart still. So my background is software development. In 2002, my team moved to extreme programming, and that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard of. But luckily, I hung in there, and after 6 months, I became a convert. So if you can convert a hater to a convert, they become an evangelist, and that's what I become. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. This is sliced bread for software development. So I became an evangelist, and my career then moved through agile coaching. I've been in sales, but always in the agile space. I've done a bit of product ownership and TPM even, dev manager, but everything always in the agile space.
Yeah, so you've been around this area. You kind of know it well then, Ron.
I like to think so. Yes.
Yes. So I know today we want to talk about what Fast Agile is. So just to kind of level set, because I just want to give a plug. There was a friend of mine who told me about this. I hadn't heard about it and shared this with me. And I thought it'd be great to talk to you and just kind of level set everyone to share what is Fast Agile.
Yeah, great. So what is Fast Agile? So there's a couple ways I can answer that one. And I'll try three, and you can tell me which one you prefer. So Fast Agile is a system for organic collaboration and creative endeavors from the small scale to the large. That was my attempt at a one sentence pithy statement, but it's still like, well, what is it? So then here's another one. Well, we combined open space with open allocation. That's what Fast Agile is. So then it gives people a bit of grounding because if they understand those terms, it gets people starting to think. And then I guess the third one is, well, Fast Agile is as much a Teal framework as it is an Agile framework. But again, that requires some people to know what that Teal means. But if they do, then that gives them a bit of grounding as well. That's probably still as clear as mud right now.
Well, I think you've piqued my interest. I guess I'll say that because I think part of that, when we put things out there like this, is to get people to want to ask more, to get a little better understanding. And I think it would be helpful if you did kind of clarify, because I know what you're referring to with the Teal framework, but maybe just kind of level set people on that term too, because I know that's referring to a book, correct? That talks about that. I'm trying to remember the author's name, but it's blanking now. You probably remember it.
Yeah. Frederick Laloux.
Yeah.
Reinventing organizations. Yes. Yeah. So Fast came out of an experiment that we did at a health insurance company here in Washington, and it evolved over a few years. And during that period was when I realized that Fast was as much Teal. So we didn't create Fast to be a Teal framework, but we found out that it was.
Yeah.
And that really helped a lot because there's a lot of literature and material out there about Teal, and the short definition of Teal is self-managing system.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that the latest version of the Scrum guide, they've switched the words to self-managing, and I'm not sure if that was
intentional
towards Teal, but anyway, Teal essentially means a few things. One of them is self-managing. The other one is more human ways of working, more human and adaptive ways of working. And so I think there's a lot of compatibility between Teal and Agile. And I like to say Teal stands on the shoulders of Agile. It's kind of, or Agile fits inside Teal nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Teal word. Open space. is a term that more and more people are getting to know. And it helps a lot to understand open space. If you do understand open space, to get a grasp of how FAST works, because FAST is built on open space. It's almost an extension of open space.
Okay.
And the other word that I used there was open allocation. And some people may recognize that from the best examples are Valve, company here in Seattle, and W.O. Gore. They both use this way of working where people very, very much self-directed, and they choose what they want to work on. Yeah. So we combined one of the definitions was of FAST. So we combined open space with open allocation. So I think that if you understand both of those terms, I think that gets you 80% of the way there. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yes, I think so. I think I would say from the events I've been at, a lot of Agile events have open spaces. People are aware of that. I know, for instance, like I helped a friend, Vasco Duarte, with his Scrum Master Summit recently. He had an open space, and I have had another event where I had it. I think it's something where people are familiar with that kind of self-directed. And then I would just say too, another one of your Seattle friends created the Lean Coffee, or helped co-create, Jim Benson is who I'm thinking of. And I think, Lean Coffee, open space are not the same, but, there's some similarities of kind of using that collaboration and I guess the terms you like, self-directed. I think, so that would be terms I think people would understand those.
Yeah. It's I learned a lot from FAST, and one of them was the very first time I presented it at a conference. A gentleman came up to me off. He says, "This is brilliant. What you've created here is a self-organizing system, a complex adaptive system." And I said, "I have." Because I didn't create FAST as much as put a couple of things together.
Yeah.
But then I had to go and learn what these words meant of complex adaptive systems, and that opened up a whole world of understanding to me as well. And I'm like, sure enough, yeah, this is a complex adaptive, creates a complex adaptive system. So yeah, systems theory, chaos theory, all this wonderful stuff that's inside open space, and it actually creates a very different way of working. So I know one of the questions we'll probably get to is how is FAST different, and there are so many ways. It's quite a paradigm shift for Agile and for the way that we work.
So if you compared it, like, for instance, a lot of people are familiar with Scrum. Compare FAST like to Scrum.
Compare FAST to Scrum. Okay. So in my original sentence of what is FAST, I said it's a system for organic collaboration on creative endeavors from the small scale to the large. So Scrum is similar to that sentence. So where does that differ? One is on organic collaboration. So in Scrum, we talk about self-organizing teams, which is a type of collaboration. But in FAST, we take that to the next level in that teams aren't static at all. So teams will form around work instead of static teams getting work pushed to them, or static teams pulling work. So that's a big shift. The teams form around work, not static teams that have work going into them.
Yeah.
So we turn that around. So that's one thing, how teams are formed and why they're formed. The other part of the sentence, it's a system on creative endeavors from the small scale to the large. Scrum works at the team level. That was what it was designed for, as was extreme programming, right? And for a long time, the challenge was, well, how do we scale that? And so we've come up with various frameworks and ways of scaling Scrum, but Scrum in and of itself doesn't scale. Some people get upset when I say that Scrum doesn't scale, but I have to be specific and say in and of itself it doesn't. You have to do something else with it. When that's one of the differentiators with fast is that fast does. So you don't have to do something else too fast. Fast works. You can use fast in place of Scrum, and it's also a scaling framework as well. And in fact, it was the scaling challenge that really made me first think about using open space. So I don't know, did that answer your question? So
yeah, I think so. I think we compared Scrum to Fast Agile. You brought up scaling. So I guess, would it be better to compare something like Fast Agile to, like Less, Nexus, Safe? I mean, we have all these other, would that be a better comparison in your, Ron, or what would you say?
Yeah, let's do that as well. Because that's a really good example, because you can use fast in place of Scrum, and we can go into why you might want to or not. But you can also use fast as a scaling framework. So if you were using Less or Safe, the key differentiator I would say here is that fast is purposefully not complicated. So in fact, I created fast for a couple of reasons. And one is, I'll give you the origin story. I was at an Agile conference, the last day, which was an open space event. I'd been to open space, I was familiar with it, but I was in this reflective mode, or something was different that day, where I was just sat back and was watching events unfold. So we've just populated the marketplace, and it took 20 minutes for 800 people to self-organize a one-day event. And the theme of that conference, or a big running theme, was Agile at Scale. To that point, everything around Agile at Scale, it wasn't sitting right with me. So I'm like, I'm an Agile coach. I'm just going to focus at the team level because I'm confident there. I know it works. I know what I'm talking about. All these other things that are going on, I'm going to let other people work that out. And when the dust settles, I'm going to come and revisit it. But right now, I'm staying here at the team level. So we're watching the event, 800 people self-organized event in 20 minutes. And I went, this is incredible. 800 people self-organized in 20 minutes. You just don't see that, right? Yeah. Why aren't we using this as a way to scale Agile? Because it feels very, very Agile. It's very compatible with the values of Agile. And that was the birth of the idea. Why aren't we using open space as a way to scale Agile? And that was how the idea was born out. So I wanted a simpler alternative to complicated scaling, and that was Fast Agile. Yeah. I don't know. Does that really give you a comparison?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I understand where you're going with that, because I guess what my mind thinks too is like if you look at Safe and it has the mapping and all the diagrams, and I've read, I'm not as well versed in Less or Nexus. I've read about them, and I've worked in a Safe environment, I guess, but I can see where, like you said, there's a lot of complexity in there that, as you mentioned, is probably unnecessary to get all that collaboration. But this is a thing I want to ask you, Ron, because I've heard this. So just to kind of give you a little context, I've worked in the financial services and with different companies doing Agile transformations. And one of the things, even with Scrum, that comes up, as you mentioned, this kind of self-directed nature of Scrum. And I see it even more so in Fast Agile. I hear these VPs and executives saying, Tom or Ron, I want these people to work on work. I don't want them to goof off or just, because I remember having a conversation with an executive, and basically the gist of the conversation was he was thinking, oh, if people are self-directed, they'll just sit at their desks and do nothing. Yeah. Just one of those things I like, whoa. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So did I hear a question there? How do we? Well, I guess what would you say to people like for instance, your job, Ron, is you create this is to really sell and influence people to use Fast Agile. How do you, when you have conversations like that with people, what are some of the, because it kind of comes to the question, what are the benefits of fast agile as we, you talk to people and say, okay, this is where it might be helpful.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's that question, or that comment, that observation about, well, if you give people, that much freedom, are they going to abuse it? Essentially.
Yes.
And the answer to that is maybe, and it's a great question that comes up, and that's a Teal question, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's more a Teal question than an Agile question. And so that was, I did a tour at Valve, and we were already like a long way into our little experiment at the health insurance company. But it was curious. Like, that was one of the very first questions they asked Valve. Now at Valve, I think there's 250 odd people. There are 0 managers, and everything is via open allocation. So people, they choose what they're going to work on and who they're going to work with. All the projects come from the team themselves as well, or from the organization. So this is an example of a extreme, the very first extreme of self-management. And that was the very first question they asked. So one of the visitors said, how do you know what? They're quite often say, how does the unwanted work happen, right? Mm-hmm. And which is a similar kind of question. How do you make sure that the stuff that everybody wants to do gets done? And how do you make sure people do what they're supposed to and don't just slack off? The short answer is that when you give people ownership and responsibility, they feel it. I was looking for another term. I was about to say they man up, but that's a very masculine way of saying it. So a non-gender version of that term, I couldn't bring it to mind quick enough. But essentially, that's it. You take ownership. You go. I'm a parent, and I was a parent fairly young, and this little bundle gets dropped in my arms, and that changed my world. And you have 2 options, right? You take ownership, or you don't, and you take ownership because you now have responsibility, and you just do it. So if you give people ownership, they tend to take responsibility. Is the short answer. Now that can go wrong as well. And I heard a story recently how it did, and those stories are really important, right? So when we look for stories in the Agile world, we go, here's the success story from here, here's the success story from there. That's great, but also look for the where were the failures, because that's important information to not repeat them, right? Don't just chase after successes. Here's how Spotify did it. Oh yeah, let's chase that one, right? What didn't work for Spotify, right? What if other companies that tried Spotify didn't work? That is really as important as the success. So I heard a recent story from Zappos, who made this big switch to Teal, and it went wrong. People did exactly that. They started not showing up for work and so forth. So there is things you need to do, like if that starts heading that direction. And there is answer to that, which is accountability. Mm-hmm. How do we create, and it comes down to peer accountability. So how do we, when fast we talk about the tribe, and you're a member of the tribe, but now I'm accountable to my tribe members as well. So how do we create accountability and ownership within the tribe? That I can say, hey, Tom's slacking off. So so in fast, if you're in my tribe and I perceive you as slacking off, the first thing I would do is have a conversation with you. Say, hey, Tom, is everything okay? I haven't seen you around. Let's assume positive intent first. So all of these human skills have to be adopted when you move into this system. And it's very empowering to have adult conversations, because I don't go and tell a boss, hey, I'm going to snitch on Tom. He's not around, right? You don't, right? All of that adult-child relationship stuff starts to fall away. So this is why I love fast for many reasons, but this is one of them, is that it really changes the relationship that people have and gives them new skills. which are useful outside of work. And I think it makes us better people, which is why I'm passionate about it. I call fast the untethering of the human spirit in the workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess where could we get started if an organization wants to start with Fast Agile? What would you suggest, Ron?
There is the Fast Guide is a document I've written, which is kind of based on the Scrum Guide. It's a minimum to kind of understand and describe it. So that's on the website, which is fluid.scaling.tech or fastagile.io. They both go to the same place. And yeah, you'll find the guide there. The next revision of that is coming out any day now. It's not a major change to the last one. A couple of things have changed its names, but that's a good starting spot. There is there's a company in Toronto that are doing some experimentation now, and they're actually working with them on creating a guide on how to move from Scrum to Fast, which is
interesting.
Fun. Yeah, it goes in 3 phases and how to know when to move from the first phase to the next.
Yeah.
So it can be an incremental move over. So that would be on Scrum team. But the other part is it's not going to work everywhere.
Yeah.
And it because it is a paradigm shift, and it does kind of require companies that are more forward thinking, leaning more towards Teal and empowering people and letting go of control. Because we gain control by letting go of control, which is unintuitive, but so much in Agile is. So, hey, relax. I'm going to give you some more unintuitiveness, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, so it requires companies that are kind of heading down that journey and really have a different view on work. Mob programming is a great way to start as well.
Yeah.
Because it starts moving towards this collective ownership and collaboration. And the other place I would start, in fact, I would do this first in any case, is if you have an existing Scrum team, I've written a blog out there, I think it's called Tealing Your Agile Team, is to in their team agreements, have the team choose how are we going to make decisions? What is our decision-making protocol or process? And what is our process for resolving conflict amongst ourselves? And because that's the first step. Say, hey, we're not going to, me manager, me Scrum Master, product owner, whoever, I'm not going to solve your problems anymore, right? I'm not your dad. You're not my kids. You're adults.
Yep.
You're going to solve them. And we're going to start with that. So this gets them to start exercising that muscle of adult to adult relationships and moving them towards Teal.
Yeah.
And if they fail at that, like I probably wouldn't go to Fast. Honestly, it's because it is such a shift.
Yeah, that's very good. Any closing thoughts, Ron?
Closing thoughts are, let's make this world a better place by, working out how to make our people better people inside our organizations. That's what I care about more than Fast. That's my life's purpose right now. Fast is just part of that.
Yeah.
But how can we make people better people? They spend more time at work than they do elsewhere. So we can do 2 things. We can make money and make better people.
Yeah.
Go do that.
Excellent. Ron, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On behalf of Ron Quartel, I am Tom Henriksen for the Agile Online Summit.